Chapter 5 Chemistry and the Environment. Chapter 1 Pollution. We have several types of pollution, mainly air pollution, soil pollution, and water pollution. We're going to start with air pollution. We can see or we know that air pollution can be caused by either particles or gases. These particles or gases are either present naturally, for example, volcanic eruptions, or due to human activity, factories, cars. So the sources of pollution caused by humans mainly are factories, power plants, which are used to produce electricity, and vehicles, cars, trucks, airplanes. Air pollution will affect the health of the living organism since we're breathing in polluted air. In addition to that, it affects the climate of the planet. The main pollutant gases are sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and carbon monoxide. Water pollution, it is also caused mainly by human activity, agriculture, planting, industry, and construction. The pollutants are pesticides, which are substances used to kill insects, fertilizers, the substance we add to plants in order to help them to grow, sewage, when we dump the sewage water into rivers or seas, and oil spills. Soil pollution is also mainly caused by human activity, agriculture, so when we plant and we use fertilizers and pesticides, construction, mining, and garbage disposal. So if you look to the right, poor agricultural practices, we do not plant using the rules which we should follow. So we use excessive amounts of fertilizers or pesticides. Solid waste management, we do not throw waste in their specific places. Unsafe storage and disposal of chemicals and nuclear waste. We have also leaches from landfills. So when we leave the wastes which we throw in landfills for long periods of times, a liquid will seep from this solid waste into the underground water. The greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is caused by gases that trap heat. So normally the earth is surrounded by an atmosphere. We receive heat from the sun. This is what keeps our temperature stable. This is what keeps the temperature of earth good enough for living organisms. Without an atmosphere, the earth will be so cold no living organism can survive. So we need to trap the heat which we receive from the sun in order to have good living conditions for human beings, for plants, for animals. Greenhouse gases are the gases that are present in the atmosphere and that trap the heat which we receive from the sun. This is called the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse gases are mainly methane, chlorofluorocarbons, so a group of compounds made of carbons, fluorine, and chlorine, nitrous oxide, N2O, and carbon dioxide. Now when we have air pollution and the amount of the greenhouse gases increases more than normal in the atmosphere, the greenhouse effect will increase. So the temperature of the Earth will rise above its normal temperature. This is called global warming. Global warming has several effects, mainly the melting of the polar ice cap. So the ice which is present at the North Pole and the South Pole could dissolve. When it dissolves, the level of water in the sea increases and causes flooding in areas which are close to the sea. It also shifts rainfall over different continents, so the amount of rain which we receive on different continents might change. The second effect resulting from air pollution is the ozone depletion. So we spoke that around the Earth we have the atmosphere which traps the heat we receive from the sun. Above the atmosphere we have the ozone layer. The ozone layer is formed of ozone gas, which is O3. Its role is to stop ultraviolet rays which come from the sun from reaching the surface of the Earth. So ultraviolet rays are rays which have a very high energy. If they reach living organisms, they might cause genetic damage. They may cause skin cancer, they may cause cataracts, and they might harm the immune system of living organisms. What causes ozone depletion? What causes this hole in the ozone layer? The group of gases which we called before CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons. So when we have a lot of CFCs in the atmosphere, the ozone layer will become thinner, more ultraviolet rays will reach the surface of the Earth, more living organisms will be harmed. Acid rain, another effect of air pollution, is acid rain. Normal rain has a pH of 5.6, so it is not neutral. It has a pH of 5.6. Neutral, we know, is 7. If the pH decreases to an amount less than 5.6, then the rain becomes acidic. We call it acid rain. How do we get acid rain, or what causes acid rain? The gases released from factories or power plants, for example nitrogen dioxide here or sulfur dioxide, are released into the atmosphere. They react with oxygen to produce sulfuric acid, H2SO4, or nitric acid, HNO3. These acids formed by the reaction of sulfur dioxide or nitrogen dioxide with oxygen will make the rain acidic. These reactions here are for memorization. In factories we burn fuel. This fuel contains sulfur. When we burn it, sulfur and oxygen will produce SO2. SO2 gas, when it reaches the atmosphere, it reacts with oxygen in the atmosphere to form SO3. Then SO3 with water in the atmosphere will form H2SO4 sulfuric acid. What are the disadvantages or the effects of acid rain? We have damage to trees, so trees are killed by acid rain. Damage to forests, the lakes and the living organisms in lakes will be harmed. Buildings and structures could also be damaged by acid rain. So it harms living organisms, animals and plants, and aquatic life, organisms that live in water. Plastic wastes. Plastic is non-biodegradable. Non-biodegradable means it cannot be decomposed by microorganisms. So bacteria and other living organisms that can break down waste, that can break down, let's say, food which is thrown on soil, cannot break down plastics. That's why if we throw plastics in on land or in the sea, they will remain as they are for long periods of time, and they accumulate since they cannot be broken down by microorganisms. In addition to that, they cannot be recycled easily. Incineration or burning of plastics could be done. It produces heat, but it also produces toxic gases. So getting rid of plastic wastes is hard. Agricultural waste, we said agriculture is the planting. When we plant, we use fertilizers and pesticides. Fertilizers, we said before, they are chemicals that provide nutrients to plants to help them grow. Pesticides are chemicals that kill insects that attack the crop. So the plants which we are planting or growing, they could be attacked by bugs or insects. So we use pesticides to kill these bugs or insects. Now fertilizers and pesticides have several disadvantages, since these fertilizers and pesticides will reach the soil, will reach the water, so they will harm living organisms. We have this process here called eutrophication. When fertilizers reach the water, the phosphates and nitrates which are present in fertilizers will help the algae that is present in lakes or ponds to grow. Once the algae grows on the surface of the pond, the light that used to pass through the water to reach the living organisms on the seabed, the bottom of the lake, will not be able to reach these living organisms anymore. In addition to that, algae, which is growing on the surface of water, uses a lot of oxygen which was present in the lake or pond, so the living organisms which were present in the lake or pond may suffocate. This whole process, we call it eutrophication. Pesticides, on the other hand, they could harm animals and birds. When animals and birds try to eat the plants which are growing, and we have pesticides sprayed on them, pesticides are poisonous, so they may kill or harm these living organisms. Pesticides also do not break easily, so they accumulate in the soil, and anything that reaches the soil will reach the water at the end. The water cycle. Here we can see a schematic representation of the water cycle. So we start at the sea, where we have evaporation of water. This water that evaporates will reach the atmosphere. It will form clouds. These clouds, upon condensation, so condensation is the process where water vapor or a gas returns to its liquid state. Once we have condensation of this water vapor, it will precipitate again and reach the sea again. So this is a cycle. We have water evaporating, condensing, and returning to its liquid state. Same thing happens in lakes or in ponds. So water moves between the sea, atmosphere, and land. Sea goes to the atmosphere, goes to the land or lakes, and underground water again to the sea. Water enters the atmosphere by evaporation. Evaporation is the process by which a liquid turns into a gas. So liquid water turns into water vapor. The vapor in the atmosphere cools down, condenses, and returns to the earth. Once water is in the atmosphere, and if we have low temperatures, the gas will condense into a liquid and it will precipitate, returning to the earth. Water could leak into the ground and become groundwater. So any water which is below ground, we call it groundwater. Usually lakes and ponds are connected to the seas by groundwater. Human activity also affects the water cycle at different levels. In the atmosphere, we said before that some gases will lead to the formation of acid rain. We could also dump waste in water bodies, so lakes and rivers, polluting this water. Underground water polluted by dissolved chemicals. So we said if we dump any waste in the lakes or in the ponds, or if we dump waste in the soil, everything at the end will reach the underground water, which will go back to the sea and will pass through this whole cycle.